arson to stand for the red hand and crown. These were the seed of mighty Cuchulainn, these were the sons of Congal Clean, determined that Gael and Rome should not rule them, and England if need be withstand. Those were the days of Ulster's defiance, those were the days of passion and strife, those were the days when England denied us and Ulster stood for her life. The call came for war and the volunteers answered. The 36th was formed in 1914 to fight the German Kaiser instead of faithless England, to maintain their birthright and king. They marched into hell nearly 2 years onward, the first day of July on a bright and summer morn. Aloft against blue sky they bore the Ulster standard down the bloody road to the Somme. These were the men of Tyrone, Londonderry, Monaghan and Cavan, down and Donegal, the men of Armagh, of Antrim and Fermanagh, who walked the bloody road to the Somme. They faced the deadly hail from cannons and machine guns, through the bursting shells in hell of no man's land. Triumphantly they yelled the cry of no surrender, and fought the Kaiser's troops hand to hand. 3 miles they struck through enemy defences in the greatest charge of that European war. Like a mighty wave they swamped the German trenches, over fallen dead and barbed wire. Then they were cut off with no one to support them. They were mown down by fire from 3 sides. Bravely they fell like leaves in the autumn. Death reaped the bitter harvest of their lives. When the battle ceased, a young man was heard crying, bleeding from a wound where the bullet creased his head. There amid the maimed, the pleading and the dying, he held the broken body of his friend. As the red sun set, smoke drifted o'er the trenches, dazed, bewildered men trudged back along the way. The carnage, it was great, the slaughter, it was senseless. 5,000 Ulster sons fell that day. Here was a time of mourning and of sorrow. All along the line they gathered up their dead. Here was a time of yearning for the morrow. Here was the time when Ulster bled. The land was filled with grief when news broke of the slaughter. Like black heavy clouds it hung o'er Cruithne's brow. The telegrams they came to mothers, wives and daughters, and like warm falling rain the tears poured down. We count the bloody cost they paid for Ulster's freedom. We cherish memories of those who died so young. With passing of the years we will not forget them who walked the bloody road to the Somme. As long as earth revolves upon its axis turning, when day sleeps in the dark and wakens with the dawn, as long as sun goes down and rises in the morning, we will remember the Somme. We will remember the Somme. We will remember the Somme.
Good evening, everyone. I hope you're not as confused as Eddie is. It is, of course, the 1st of July. And as promised, we said we would be here for a special programme solely about the 1st of July. I'm sure you probably all know more about the 1st of July than I do, but we've purposely picked clips to illustrate it, some that tell a little bit of story, some with pictures, but they all feature bands playing at a variety of places across the Somme battlefields. So the first one that I really wanted to play for you is a pipe march with brass bands coming in. I do have to apologise to all our usual brass band fans because there's not that many, but I did find one clip for you, although it's not a brass band from Northern Ireland. But this first one, I absolutely love this one. I love this march full stop. And the march is a 9/8 march written by Willie Laurie, who was a piper with the 8th Argylls. And he was killed shortly after writing this march. The march is called, most appropriately for today, the Battle of the Somme. And it's performed here by members of the Household Division. Great arrangement of a fantastic march. I never ever knew the circumstances behind it until I was doing a little bit of research for tonight's programme. And yeah, as I say, the gentleman who composed that died shortly after composing it at the Battle of the Somme. So let's go on. Now, I know it's a very sombre occasion, and we are commemorating and remembering all those brave men in that war and all the war since. However, they were just like us. They were people who enjoyed themselves. They were people who liked a good laugh. So I want us all to remember that as we're going through the programme tonight. So I can rest assure you it's not all slow songs. It's not, there's a few thrown in there just because they're beautiful pieces of music. But they were just like us. And that, I think, is why the Battle of the Somme has had such a resonance with us even to this day, because of the fact that they were just men like us. So we're going to start off with a march called Callaloo. Everyone will know this one, but I thought it was a really good one to start off with. It is, of course, the Regimental March of the British Army Regiment, the Royal Irish Regiment and the UDR. It also is an unofficial march for the Connaught Rangers, the Royal Enniskillen Fusiliers, and also by the 30th Irish Infantry Brigade in World War II. And believe it or not, it's also the regimental march of the South African Irish Regiment. Now, tonight playing it for us are the Somme Memorial Band from Bangor, a wee clip that I managed to take of them as they arrived at Ulster Tower a couple of years ago. Brilliant there for the Somme Memorial Bangor. And that is the 1st of July, 2 years ago. Beautiful weather. I am absolutely gutted that I'm not there this year. I've now went for the past 4 or 5 years in a row, and I just love being at the Ulster Tower on the 1st of July. I love getting in the service at Lochnagar first thing in the morning. It is so moving. And then I love always getting over to the Ulster Tower for their service in the afternoon. If you've never been, make it a mission in life to get. It really It's a magical place. That's the only way I can describe it. It just is unbelievable. And yes, Denise, that was Mason. I think he was actually taking photographs, so he could have been taking video on his mobile phone. Roy says he's going to teach me how to take it landscape instead of portrait going forward. A few ones I want to say a big quick shout out to. Say hi to Harry and Glasgow. I recognise all these names. It's brilliant. Gillian Douglas Ray, Samuel Morton and Money Moore. China, of course, is with us. Alistair and Tobermore, Evelyn and Castle Douglas, Alexander and Stevenson, and Roy Fisher wishes us a happy 1st of July. The same to you, Roy. And we're glad that you're all watching here with us. Now, when bands tend to go to the Somme to pay their respects. There's two areas that they go to. They go to the Somme and the Ulster Tower and Thiepval, and then they also tend to go to Ypres. Ypres itself, of course, is the Menin Gate, but you also get performances outside the Cloth Hall. This is one of the many bands who've paraded from the Cloth Hall up to Menin Gate. I think I heard somewhere they were actually stopping that. Maybe that was just for the COVID or not. But tonight is also the first night that they have allowed the public back in again at Menin Gate to watch the service in the evening. So this is Drumderg Loyalist Katie, just playing as you're coming out of the Cloth Hall Square and marching towards Menin Gate. It's a beautiful village. I'm just going to rant the whole night about how wonderful this place is. I just love being there. But this is a fantastic piece from them. They start off playing the sash and then they move into a few other tunes. What better tune could you get from Ulstermen in Ypres Town Square?
Get on, Brit!
Brilliant there from Drumderg. And of course, any of the quick-witted among you will have noticed it wasn't the sash, it was Derry's walls. But it was close. No, it was, of course, Derry's walls, also known as the Prince of Wales. God bless the Prince of Wales. And I do know that last tune, but I can't think of a name of it. Somebody tell me the name of it. What I'm going to do tonight is also give you a little bit of information about places and events and the Battle of the Somme itself. I'm not promising that I'll be 100% right all the time. I am dependent on other sources. I just love going there, and I'm terrible with facts and remembering figures and stuff like that. I remember names of tunes even, but hopefully I'll teach you something that you don't know already, or at least if you've never been to Ypres or the Somme, at least let you see the places that we're all talking about, and hopefully encourage you to go yourself. Now, the next set of tunes, is played by the Loyal Sons of Benna on their visit to the area in 2019. This particular clip is taken from Othiel Military Cemetery, which is just outside Thiepval itself. And they're playing at the grave of Willie McBride. I'm sure all of you know the song Greenfields of France, or How Do You Do, Young Willie McBride. Now, there is allegedly one of the graves that they're standing beside is the grave of the Willie McBride that the song was written about. However, the author of the song, Eric Bogle, said he didn't really write it about any particular one. And in fact, in that cemetery, there are 2 William McBrides, and there's also 8 soldiers named William McBride within the British forces, and a further 6 registered as W. McBride, who all died in France and Belgium during World War I. In the song, William McBride is only 19, but the William McBride that has this gravestone that's purported to be the William McBride of the song is actually 21, and the song's writer has admitted he had poetic license with the age. So William McBride was eager to do his bit for the war effort, and he enlisted in Belfast just 9 months before his death. So basically he enlisted, and 9 months later, that was it. He was served with the 9th Battalion of the Royal Inniskilling Fusiliers, which was formed in Omagh in September 1914 and was also known as the Tyrones. Interestingly, the 12th Battalion of the Enniskilling Fusiliers also fought against the Irish rebels in Easter Week in 1916, and 2 soldiers done. The fighting conditions in the trenches were just devastating and absolutely bleak. So I think if you look where it's a day or two since I watched this clip, but if you look where Loyal Sons of Bennett are standing, you will see guys with flags in front of a or behind the headstone. I think there's also guys facing a headstone. That is actually the grave of William McBride, who is purported to be of the song Green's Fields of France. So hopefully you're able to see there the 2 guys with flags standing directly behind the headstone. As I say, there are actually 2 William McBrides in that, or William McBrides in that in that cemetery itself. But you can see it's quite a small cemetery from the video. It's quite a small cemetery. Beautiful. It's the one thing that I always notice about all the Commonwealth War graves. They are immaculate, absolutely immaculate, and so peaceful and so restful considering what they are, obviously. It's just so serene and calm considering the chaos that was there over 100 years ago. Now, back to Menongate again. This time we have Cambuslang volunteers. So they have, at this point in the video, already taken part in the ceremony and are parading away from the gate again. And this is them in 2017 at Menongate. Brilliant there from Cambuslang volunteers, absolutely immaculately turned out as well. And I love the fact the first two front rows of the flip corps are almost entirely female, and they all have their hair immaculately tied up behind. There's nothing worse than a girl in a band and the hair all over the place. Like, you know, I have mine up in a ponytail when I'm in my band, so it's just so immaculate, and it really makes such a difference to your appearance. Now, of course, there are always sentimental and emotional tunes played at the venues when bands are there, and bands spend an awful lot of time working and preparing their tunes for playing at these venues. The next band, it's not a great clip, I have to say. It's wet, it's windy, as it sometimes can be, and it's but the playing is fantastic. And I love this clip because it does show you out round Thiepval. So this is Ballywullen Flip Band from Portrush playing at Thiepval Memorial. And when you see the video, you can see the great big expanse of grass in the front of it as you come in towards the memorial, and then you actually start to see up on the memorial itself with all the thousands upon thousands of names, and down into the small graveyard or cemetery behind it, and then back again onto the band. So it's great that it shows you so much of the scenery around it. And for those of you who've never been to the Somme or to Ypres, I'm trying to show you clips that have enjoyable music, but also let you see a little bit of the landscape as well. So this is Ballywullen Flip Band playing Highland Cathedral at, it's quite wet, quite windy, but they're playing at Thiepval Memorial. Brilliant there from Ballywullen, and I see Rosemary and Linda will of course be in the band there as well. Absolutely beautiful place there at Thiepval Memorial. There are over 72,000 names inscribed in the panels of the memorial, and over I think it's over 90%. Yeah, over 90% of those who are named in that panel have died between July and November of 1916, and they have no grave. In other words, that they were not able to be identified or not able to be found even. So it's a really poignant place to visit. It's quite interesting there that it was really rainy there. The terrain in that area is a very clayey, muddy ground, and when it rains, it really quickly becomes a quagmire. So anyone that was there on the 1st of July 2016 will remember how it rained and how quickly the grounds around the Ulster Tower just became a mud pit. It was awful. So you could very quickly imagine months and months and months of that rain and deluge and the ground being bombed up, and it just, you know, it must have been horrific. You just cannot imagine what those guys went through at all. And of course, everyone forgets that the Battle of the Somme was not just one day. It of course went on for, I think it was 141 days in total length. I mean, it wasn't just the one day, but I think because the first day there were such huge losses. On the first day alone, the British forces had over 57,000 casualties and almost 20,000 men killed, which is just astronomical. But let's move on to another piece of music. This is this is a fantastic piece. Now, it's only a short clip of music, so I've included a bigger clip later on in the program. This is the Imperial Corps of Drums, and what they're doing is they are parading down the Camel Road, and the 16th Irish and the 36th Ulster marched together down the Camel Road into the Battle of Messines Ridge in June 1917. Now, the reason that I've chosen this clip is because on the video itself, it tells the story of Private John Meek, who fought in the 36th and actually came from Bombarden, just up the road here from us, and also Major Willie Redmond, who was a member of the 16th Irish and was a nationalist MP. His brother was the leader of the Irish paramilitary party. So it's a fantastic story. Sorry, Roy? Were you laughing at the way I got tongue-tied?
Yes, it's parliamentary, not paramilitary.
That's what I said. Well, you could question a few of the parliamentary parties, whether they're paramilitary or not. Well, so this is the story of Private John Meek and Major Willie Redmond, and in the background you have the wonderful music of the Imperial Corps of Drum. I think it's the trio of Blaze Away they're playing. Brilliant there from Imperial Corps of Drums, and hopefully you're able to read that as it come up on the screen. Hopefully it wasn't too fast for you, but it is available to find on YouTube if you're wanting to look for it afterwards. Just let me know and I'll send you the link. Just a few folk to say hello to. Mark in Banbridge, Billy McDonald is here as always, Michelle Knight McQuillan, Lynn Fitchie says happy 1st of July. Hi again to Alan Knox. Roy Patterson, Helen Holland is saying hi from her and Billy from Ballysullen, North Belfast. Eddie says the Men Gate is a great service every night of the year. You are right, Eddie. It's fantastic, and always is such a crowd. And I have to say, the crowd, anytime I've been there, seems to give it such great respect. It's wonderful. And of course, even during the COVID, they kept it going, which was just fantastic. Mark Bickham is watching. Teal Sinclair says happy 1st of July from Dover on this beautiful night. I don't know what our weather's doing outside. It's been it's been an hour too since I last looked. Laura McConnell's watching. Guy's watching. Julie Dodd is watching. China. Eddie says John China says he's not walking on the 13th and we'll just open the shop 2 rods of applause. Yes, also a couple of people were asking what we're doing on the 13th, i.e. the 12th. We are going to still put on the show. The Orange Order have released a statement today, in case you haven't seen it, and they're saying that there definitely will be no Orange Order organised events because the relaxation of guidelines to allow 30 people still doesn't allow for the crowds that obviously would be at any 12th events. However, they have it noted that bands have indicated their intention to apply for parades, which we know, with no more than 30 members, and the bands have rightly asked the members of the public to stay at home, not to follow them, that they will be bringing the music to them, which is what we've been saying. And they, of Orange Order, have said, of course, that this is a model the institution can support because it complements the 12th at Home campaign. So basically, the Orange Order are saying, like, small events, bands, but make sure you stay in your own home and do not follow the band. That's vitally important to keep the band on the right side of the legislation, okay? And we will be having our 12th day show on the 13th. I just haven't figured out a time yet. But I hope to get that done before this weekend. So yes, we will absolutely be doing that.
It's looking more like it could be the 13th night at the minute.
Okay, cool.
Evening.
No problem.
Sometime in the evening, because I suppose if people are
out during the day
during the day watching things and everything else, it's going to make more sense. But possibly at the moment I could be out majority of the day. So
okay, well, we'll play it by ear and see what we can fit in. Chrissy says hi from Glasgow. John wants to know any clips of Bobby's story. Mr. China, don't even start me.
The page has been turned and it said the end.
You're going to start me in a rant. Albert is with us from Newton Ards. Wonderful to see. Neil is with us. John Stevenson. Hi, John. Hi, George Frame. Davy Pritchard. Matthew Witherow. William Gibson. Ricky Tosh. Heineman. And Ronnie. I very nearly forgot your name, Ronnie. Can't believe it. How could I do that there? Albert, I am not on the gym tonight. Still in orange, as you can see. Eddie says, I'm now enlisting folk into the paramilitaries. Well, at the minute, on Eddie, I sometimes wonder, is it paramilitaries or parliamentary? There, you see, I got it right this time. Karen is watching from Seaford. Joan is watching from Coleraine. I've also posted, Eddie, I posted on the Ulster Bands Forum page a photograph of your window parade. And it looks fantastic, all your little miniature bands men. And Reggie is, of course, watching from Newton Aycliffe. I see all these names and recognise them. Now, one of the things that I've noticed over the past while is that a lot more Blood and Thunder bands are making the pilgrimage, for want of a better word, to the Somme and to Yeats and so on. It's fantastic to see them. And here's one band who put an awful lot of work into their tunes for that occasion. It is Lambeg Orange and Blue, who went over in 2018. And this is them playing at Men Gate. And I believe the hymn is Work for the Night is Coming. But if I'm wrong, I'm sure you'll let me know. fantastic there, and a really, really well played arrangement of that hymn. I haven't had anybody correcting me. Did I get the name of the hymn correct? Steve is also watching in Newton Aycliffe, who is formerly from Belfast. And Jensen is delighted that, Eddie, you have got a miniature figure representing him as well. And that's brilliant. He's in your parade on your windowsill, which is wonderful. Now, the thing, as I mentioned before, people tend to forget that the Battle of the Somme was not one day. It came to, I think it was 141 days, but it was almost 5 months. And although the first day is the one that is most often remembered, over the entire stage of that battle, there were over 1 million casualties between Britain, the Empire forces, France, and Germany themselves. And the battle dragged on and on and on. It was the first major battle of the volunteer armies, or the PALS battalions. So it was the first sort of real engagements of all those infantry units made up of friends, relatives, and workmates, and so on. And it was the largest offensive that the British Army had ever launched. And it meant that on that day, many of the attack and infantry didn't have battlefield experience. One French officer wrote on the 10th of July, "The British infantry is very brave, but undergoing a costly apprenticeship." The next piece of music that we are going to be listening to is a wonderful piece, again, showing the links through to the Orange. And of course, many of those men of the 36 were Orange men. There's talk of them wearing their sash as they come out of the trenches. There's talk of them shouting about no surrender as they come out of the trenches. Some dispute it, but I believe that the evidence has been found to say that yes, this did happen, because there were many, many Orange lodges continued and were formed in the ranks of the men during the First World War, and indeed the Second World War. This tune is called "The Black Man's Dream." It's also, I can't remember what you call it when it's the Orange song, but it's played by Pride of the Grange volunteers, and this is them playing outside the Cloth Hall, which is in Yeats Main Square. Beautiful, beautiful building. Sometime take a little look on the internet, do a bit of a Google, and see how Cloth Hall looked before the war, at the end of the war, and then how it looks now today. I mean, it just is, there's literally a few columns of bricks, etc., left at the end of the war, and the way it's been restored in the exact same form as it was before the war is just amazing. But it's a really stunning architectural building. But this is Pride of the Grange volunteers playing outside the Cloth Hall, and they're playing Black Man's Dream. you can just get to see little bits there of the cloth hall. And some, well, most of the buildings in Yeeks, you can still see places where the shots have hit the bullets and or the buildings, and you can see like the bullet marks gouged out of what was remaining from the buildings from that time. So one of the reasons that the 36th Regiment did so well at the Battle of Somme was because when they came out of the trenches, the commanders had believed that the barrage that the planes and the artillery had hit the German army with, that by the time it was all finished, I think it was something like 7 hours, I can't remember, but it was, they reckoned that the German army would have been decimated. So they instructed their soldiers to climb out of all the different divisions, to climb out of the trenches and to walk towards the German front line, and, you know, like take their time getting over the barbed wire and all that kind of stuff. The difficulty was that the Germans bunkers and all that, they were so far in beneath the ground that the barrage of artillery and all the bombs that were dropped didn't really affect them. So as the regiments all come out of the trenches and were walking towards the German front lines, they just come out of their front lines. Obviously the artillery had stopped, so they knew that something was about to happen, and they come out of the front lines. The 36th were the most successful regiment of the day, and that they achieved their objective, in fact, a little bit more. And the reason that they did that there was that when they came out of the trenches, instead of marching and walking slowly, they got up out of the trenches, shouted no surrender, and then ran towards them, and that's why they did so well. But what ended up happening was that they advanced so far, and it left them sort of almost out in no man's land by themselves, because the rest of their regiments didn't manage to advance as much as they did. And it's really, when you think about it, I mean, you're in a trench and you're trying to get out over the trench and you're being shot at the same time. And then you consider what these guys were carrying. They carried up to 66 pounds, which is the same weight as an average 10-year-old boy. They were carrying 220 rounds of ammunition, a short magazine Lee Enfield Mark III, a bayonet, an entrenching spade, 2 gas helmets, 2 empty sandbags, water bottle and rations, a waterproof cape and a backpack, while they climbed out of the trenches and were being shot at the same time, never mind the mess of the ground that they were trying to walk over. So they were really encumbered by what they were carrying, but of course it was necessary so that they could maintain wherever they managed to achieve as they advanced, while they were waiting on backup coming for them. So one of the next pieces that we are going to play, if I can go over to my list again, is I found this one by Macra Boy Flute Band. And I hadn't ever known they had been to the Somme. You normally hear bands talking about it and see them over Facebook about looking forward to it and what all they did and so on. This is one I hadn't known we went to the Somme. This is Macra Boy performing at the Menin Gate. And I hope you'll enjoy this. I don't know the name of the tune, so if anybody does know it, they can let me know. And Eddie was great to let me know that the name of the last tune was also, when it was the Orange song, it's The Shepherd's Boy. So this is Macra Boy Flute Band playing at Menin Gate.
that's our spoil.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, David and Jim, for letting me know that the tune name was Hazelmere. Whether I remember that for future, that's not likely, no on me. I said earlier on that they bombarded it for it wasn't 7 hours, it was 7 days. From the 24th of June to the 1st of July, there was 1,700,000 shells bombarded down on the German lines in the hope that that would decimate them, so that when the men advanced on the 1st of July morning, that they would have very little resistance. Of course, unfortunately, that didn't work because the Germans were so dug down so deep. And the thing you have to remember is the communication methods then, compared to what we have now, and mobile phones and all that kind of stuff, was you know, like it was almost non-existent. So the men, the commanders back at the front lines of the British Army didn't know what was happening with their advanced parties and so on. And my great uncle Edward Quinn, that was actually his job. He was in charge of the telephone lines, which ran. So I mean, basically, it was just a telephone line run across the ground between the front troops and their front line back at where they started off from, and that was his job, was to repair that and to keep that going. So I mean, it was quite a dangerous job, because you were constantly going into the middle of things to fix these lines. But you can imagine, with all the bombs and everything and the artillery flying, how often those wires were damaged and how the communications were. And
unfortunately, there's a great percentage of the artillery end up being duds, because they were making them that quick, trying to make them that quick back in the UK. They were being made so quickly that they weren't being finished off. So when they did land, they weren't exploding. Hence why there's still an awful lot of unexploded ordnance within the battlefield itself, even after, you know, there's still World War I ordnance, even after World War II happened. There's still loads of it.
Yeah, when farmers are playing up their fields now to plant their crops, they're still come across unexploded ordnance, and it's UXO they call it. So whenever you're driving through the French countryside, every so often at the side of the road, you'll see a pile, and you'll see I think it's a little yellow flag or a red flag, maybe, I can't remember. And that's there's teams just go round of unexploded ordnance officers, and that's their job, is to make these safe, because people are still losing their lives today because of unexploded bombs, etc., and shells from the First World War, which is just astounding when you think about it. I'm just reading wee statistics there. It said that in 1916 there were 37,092,000 shells produced. I mean, that's just astounding. Just an astounding number. Andrew says, I am echoing. Don't know why, Andrew. Okay. Yeah, Royce turned his mic off, so and somebody else let me know if you are hearing an echo as well. Okay, now the next one I thought was a really special clip, so had to include this. This is Oh My Protestant Boys, again at the Menin Gate. What I love about this one is they are performing a slow march into the Menin Gate itself. They are playing We Are Sailing, which is not a piece I would have thought of, but it works really well, and it works well with their slow march. We're going to stop it just as they move from slow march into quick time as they're leaving the Menin Gate, but I think you'll enjoy this performance from Oh My Protestant Boys. So you can see there how fantastic it is. And if you notice all these clips that I'm showing you from various bands at Meningate, and the crowds, I mean, they are just, you know, it's always bunged. You need to get there early in order to make sure that you're near the front and can see what's going on. One of the things that I did mention earlier on about the number of PALS battalions that fought at the Battle of the Somme, and that was because they believed that, you know, Britons would be more likely to volunteer if they were fighting along with their friends, etc. However, the Battle of the Somme ended the use of PALS battalions, you know, because it just devastated entire populations. So you can imagine, again, talking about the telecommunications and the communications methods, you were waiting on telegrams, and they were coming several days after your relative had actually been injured or indeed killed. In the space of 30 minutes on the battle's first day, 584 of the 720 Aquitaine PALs were either killed or wounded. The 600-man Grimsby Chums, these are all regiments that I recognise, Aquitaine PALs, the Grimsby Chums. The Grimsby Chums suffered more than 500 out of their 600 men. They were all casualties on the Battle of the Open Day. And eventually, as a result of that, the British Army folded the PALS battalions into other units. So after World War I, in World War II, etc., you didn't have PALS battalions any longer. So let's have another little piece of music. Of course, most of the clips here that we're playing tonight are from Meningate and from Thiepval, and there'll be a few more from the Ulster Tower as well. However, those aren't the only venues that people go to see. A lot of bands who take the trip over to the Somme and Ypres purposely go to visit cemeteries where relatives or locals are buried. I went on a trip with Brunswick, and they went around all the areas where people from Kilkeel and Annalong were buried in the cemeteries. And one of the most popular ones that people tend to go to is the Polcapel Cemetery, which of course has a graveyard or a grave plot, I couldn't think of the word there, of John Condon. Now, John Condon is long believed to have been the youngest Allied soldier killed in First World War, and on his gravestone it says he was 14. Now, he was an Irish soldier born in Waterford, but it is now believed from a birth certificate, census, war diaries and other records that John Condon was actually 18 at the recorded date of his death, and that the wrong individual is named on the grave. However, it's still a very, very popular place for people to go and to pay their respects. I've been several times. This is a clip of the UVF Regimental visiting John Condon's graveside in 2016. say about the best laid plans of mice and men? I had a clip. I had a clip lined out of the regimental Pole Capital Cemetery at the graveside of John Condon. And I've obviously changed it because that wasn't Pole Capital Cemetery. That is actually in Tynecott, I believe. And John Condon is not buried in Tynecott. So apologies there. I got completely the wrong cemetery. Yeah. That's what you get for planning. I had all the wee spiel and everything sorted out. Now, I'm sure most of you will remember having seen the image of a soldier carrying another soldier on his back through the trenches, a wounded soldier, and looking up into the camera. And it's a very, very poignant image. It's actually a still from a very famous documentary, The Battle of the Somme. And that was another way that people got the news back in the First World War, because obviously the papers were days behind, and what ended up happening is that you actually went to cinemas to see small clips and to see videos of what was going on at the war as much as they possibly could. The film The Battle of the Somme was watched by 20 million people when it was released in 1916. So that was the first glimpse that people living at home saw of the conditions of what their men was going through in the trenches. And of course, it was also a PR exercise as well, because at that stage the war was still going on, so they were still needing more recruits, etc. So there was probably a very good shine put on the film as well. But it's definitely worthwhile. It's on YouTube. Definitely worthwhile taking a wee look and looking it up. Now, I picked this next clip. It's not by any band, etc. It's just a little bit. Sky News did, you know, those 2 or 3 minute clips they do, and it gives you lots of information about the Battle of the Somme. So if you don't mind, I'm going to share this with you now, and then we'll get back to the music, because I just thought it was interesting. Actually, in that wee clip, I just noticed it there as I was watching it back. You actually see the clip that I was talking about with the guy carrying the wounded soldier down the trench. That's the one that I was talking about. So that's a clip from that Battle of the Somme filmed. That really, really worth watching it. Kathy says that the cocaine one is what came up for the name of the cemetery. That's definitely not what it was. Now, we played a little clip of Imperial Corps of Drums earlier on in the programme because they were coming up with a great story. This is another clip of them playing at Cloth Hall because I wanted to get a full tune from them. Imperial Corps of Drums, Gringar, Sissel, Drumderg. There's quite a few bands have actually made several regimental bands. Another one, Belfast Fife and Drums. They have all made several trips to the Somme, and you see them there quite regularly, not only at the 1st of July, but at other times throughout the year. And the Imperial Corps of Drums will be one of them. This is them playing at the Cloth Hall in 2011. Now, they're playing the March Territorials. The one thing I want to say about the Cloth Hall is if you're ever there, there's a museum now in the Cloth Hall. I think they've stopped it, but what you used to be be able to do was go up to the very, very top of the Cloth Hall and then look down over Ypres, and you can see all the countryside, because the countryside in Belgium and France is very, very flat. And when you hear them talking about, Roy, there's a troll there where you get them deleted, blocked. Oh no, it's not a troll, it's only Trevor Lennon. I just seen something about GAA there and I thought it was a troll. No, where was it? Yes. So the territory, the ground in that area, the Flanders, as they call the whole area, it's very, very flat. And when they're talking about, you know, a hill and a vantage point, it's literally just a tiny, tiny, tiny incline in the landscape. And one of them in Wiesstadt was fought over for many, many years through the battle, or through the First World War. First the Germans held it, then the British held it, then the French took over it from the British to maintain it, and then the Germans attacked it. So it was just continuously being fought over. And I mean, literally, I've stood on the hill, and it's literally a very, very slight incline. You wouldn't call it a hill of any kind whatsoever. And when you're up at the top of the Cloth Tower, the Cloth Hall, the view over the landscape you can see for miles and miles and miles, because the land is so flat. But it also has a very, very steep concrete or cement circular staircase going up, which I have to say has left me with a fear of staircases coming down it ever since. But this is the Imperial Corps of Drums playing at the Cloth Hall in 2011, and they're playing the Territorials March. Fantastic there from the Corps of Drums. Some of the other clips from recent years, they have guest members from Churchill Flip Band in Londonderry playing with them as well, and I'm sure probably other bands as well, but those are just guys that I know from Churchill come onto them. Now, the next clip that we're going to do is going to go back to Ulster Tower. And just a little word about the Ulster Tower. So the Ulster Tower is the main memorial to the 36th Division in France itself. And it is it commemorates the heavy losses suffered by the 36th. Now, it mentions that there's a whole pile of facts and figures and all this sort of stuff. But on the day on the 1st of July, the Ulster soldiers managed to advance for about 1 mile, 1,600 meters beyond their starting position. I mean, when you consider the casualties and the deaths that were incurred to gain 1 mile of ground, and then because they were the only, the most forward troop who had achieved their objective of capturing the Swabing Redoubt, but no one else had made it as far, then they had to withdraw back again to the German front line. So, you know, like they made it almost a mile and then they had to come back again. It just, you know, it's
not only did they get to their first objective, they got to the A line, the B line, the C line, and also to as far as the D line. And when they got to as far as the D line, that's when they had to start retreating backwards because there was no support coming up the flanks.
They had no ammunition, no equipment, no food, no water. They couldn't get anything to come back because what was happening was the Germans were just simply firing over their heads and firing into no man's land, and they were cutting them off.
And also they were cut, they were getting killed by their own artillery. When they had got as far as the D line, they'd advanced that far past the lines where they were meant to be, that their own artillery, when it started up again, was actually killing the soldiers as well of the Ulster 36 on the battlefield.
And of course, because of the poor communications, then the people on the ground couldn't let their artillery know to stop firing. It just, you know, it was just a mess really from beginning to end. So the tower itself is 70 feet tall, and it comprises a memorial room, which is at a flat for caretaker living and access to the roof. You can't get access to the roof any longer. However, I do happen to have a little photograph taken from the roof. Not saying how I got it whatsoever. In the tower memorial, there's a memorial room, and it's 16 feet square, and it's got a book of remembrance for visitors to sign. So make sure you sign that if you're ever there. And on the plaque, there are plaques on the walls. There are plaques of remembrance from regiments and a wide variety of organisations. In the room, there are inscribed in gold lettering: Helen's Tower, here I stand, dominant over sea and land. Son's love built me, and I hold Ulster's love in letter gold. Now, those words were originally written by Alfred Lord Tennyson for an inscription in Helen's Tower of Clandyboy, which, of course, the Ulster Tower is a replica of. And they made a slight change to it. Said it was Helen's love rather than Ulster's love. Or Ulster's love is what they used rather than Helen's love. It is a stunning, stunning place, absolutely a must. And then you can look out over to Thiepval Wood. And if you are ever in the area, take a walk out round the fields, because honestly, shrapnel, shell fuses are still in the fields and can be found today. Many's a bit of I've picked up shell fuse heads and caps and all that kind of stuff even today from it. So the next band is performing at the Ulster Tower, and it is the Saracen Truth Defenders, and this is them performing sorry, I don't know what year. Thank you very much, right? In 2017. Lovely there. Now, as you were sitting watching the band and they were facing you towards the Ulster Tower, down on the grass on the right-hand side as you were looking at it is a memorial stone. It was placed there in 1991 by the Royal Irish Rangers, and it's dedicated to all the ranks of the 36th Ulster Division, and it contains the names and battalions of the 9 officers of the division who were awarded the highest British military decoration, the Victoria Cross. The named VC winners of the 36th Ulster Division are Captain Bell of the 9th Battalion, the Royal Enniskillen Fusiliers, Second Lieutenant J.S. Emerson, the 9th Battalion of the Royal Enniskillen Fusiliers, Lance Corporal E. Seaman, 2nd Battalion of the Royal Enniskillen Fusiliers, Fusilier N. Harvey, 1st Battalion, the Royal Enniskillen Fusiliers, 2nd Lieutenant E. DeWind, I think that's Edwin, I think it is, not sure, it just says E. DeWind, 15th Battalion, the Royal Irish Fusiliers, Rifleman W.F. McFadden, 14th Battalion, the Royal Irish Fusiliers, Rifleman P. Quigg, 12th Battalion, the Royal Irish Rifles, Lieutenant G. S. Cather, 9th Battalion, the Royal Irish Fusiliers, and 2nd Lieutenant C. L. Knox, Royal Engineers attached to 36th. Sorry, I pronounced there that McFadden was the Royal Fusiliers, but he was the Royal Rifles. So you can see that down on the right hand side, and behind the Ulster Tower itself, the Orange Order have dedicated a memorial to the men and the women of the Orange Order who have served with the military forces in 1914, 1918 as well. And it's behind the Ulster Tower. When you go, definitely make sure that you take a wee look. I think I have a clip later on of a band playing at it. I'm not 100%. I don't know what I've got any longer because I thought I had all these clips, but I've changed my mind on some of them. So the next band that we are going to play is Sergeant White Memorial. We're going back to Men and Gate again, and this is them playing Melrose. portrait there from Sergeant White. Someone same as me and takes all their photo or their videos landscape. I'm just looking portrait. It's seems to be a good display of Orangemen there in front of the band. Now we're going to stay at Meningate for the next band. This is Cavalry Volunteers. I think they're young Cavalry Volunteers from Scotland playing at Meningate. And the reason that I chose this one is just something slightly different. I believe, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but they're playing the Belgian national anthem. Jaunty wee national anthem, isn't it? It doesn't have the gravitas of God Save the Queen, but still fair play to the band for learning that and performing it, and then they go on to play God Save the Queen after that. Now, the next clip I was especially asked to play, Victoria. I hope your hubby is watching because it's coming up now. This is Shankill Road Defenders, and what a lot of bands do is Thiepval Memorial and Ulster Tower are quite close to each other, and what a lot of bands do is they will actually parade from Thiepval Memorial down to Ulster Tower, and in one of the later clips you can actually get to see the scenery as that happens. They pass a couple of cemeteries on the way, and Mill Road and Connaught, I think, is the two on either side of the road before they reach the Ulster Tower. But this is Shankill Road Defenders making their way along that there in 2019. They call it the Sunken Road. And this is them playing Mud Cabin, or the tune from the end of the show, Landing at Torbay. And if you were watching on the video there, on the left-hand side of that cornfield, wheat field, or whatever it is, I'm not a farmer, you could see Thiepval Wood, which is where, so the Ulster division would have been there, and they were coming across the road from left to right of the screen as you were watching it there. And just towards the end of the clip, you can see Shankill Road defenders are coming up to Ulster Tower. Now, one of the other cemeteries which I've been to quite a lot is the Ancra Cemetery, and that is because the Somme Association I'm a member of is named for the Ancra Somme Association. And the band associated with our Somme Association, Hillhaven, frequently play at ceremonies that are held whenever the Somme Association go over there, and also here in Northern Ireland. So this is Hillhaven performing at Ancra Cemetery last year. And again, sorry, Roy, it's all portrait. Giving off there because I didn't zoom in the band. I wanted you to see the scenery and the beautiful countryside and the size of the cemetery as much as anything else. So very well played there from Hillhaven. Now, I have struggled to find, I have to say, anything other than flute bands, a couple of accordion bands. I found one brass, although they're not from Northern Ireland. And I did manage to find a pipe band, again, not from Northern Ireland. But I thought this was quite a good one. This is the Rose and Thistle Pipe Band, who I believe are from Wales, playing at Meningate in 2016. Just something a wee bit different for the ears. thought that would give your ears a little break from the flutes. It's always nice to get that variation. Now, the next band are another one who spent a lot of time and research in their trip and made a point of visiting cemeteries where relatives of their members or people from their local area were buried. Rathco Protestant Boys went in, I haven't done the year. Last year. And this is a clip of them paying their respects to one of their members' great-great-grandfathers, who obviously paid the ultimate sacrifice. This is bass drummer Ian McFarlane laying a wreath at his graveside. And this is in the, now I'm going to butcher this, but forgive me, the Bellew Communal Cemetery in Nord. And the gravestone, as you can see at the beginning of the clip, is for Rifleman J. McFarlane, who was a member of the Royal Irish Rifles. Another cemetery in immaculate condition, and it's really just amazing when you're driving through the countryside there. I tend to go over and hire a car and just try to visit cemeteries I've never been to before. And you're just driving along in the middle of the countryside, and there in the middle of a field is a cemetery. It's just astounding, maybe 50 people in it or 100 people in it. And then you get huge cemeteries, and we're going to get a wee view of Tynecott later on. Now, I played this clip on Wednesday night, and I said I wouldn't play it tonight, and there were so many of you said that you wanted to see it that I gave in because it's just a fantastic clip. This is William King playing Path to Peace at Faithful Memorial. superb there from William King. So it's definitely worth a second go. It just fantastic clip, fantastically played. What more can you say than that? So only a few more pieces to play. Because we started late tonight, we're just running late. Just because we start late doesn't mean to say we're going to give you less tunes. We're going to keep the same number of tunes in. Hopefully all our brass band fans are watching, that we haven't completely turned you off this evening with all the flutes. This is a brass band that I could find. It is the Bournemouth Youth Marching Band. But I think you'll enjoy this. This is them taking part in the last post ceremony in 2019 at Men and Gate, and they are playing the 1914 March. As my granny would have said, that there's a few hairy Erst Waynes in that band. Strange youth in Bournemouth, Roy says. Now, we're going to move to Tynecott, and this is a fantastic clip by Greengar's Thistle. Tynecott is a huge cemetery. I think it's one of the biggest. While the tune's playing, I'll look up some facts about it. But this is Greengar's Thistle, and they are coming in from the bottom gate and coming up and approaching the cross in the centre of the cemetery. It's a fantastic view of any band coming into Tynecott. So this is Greengar's Thistle. Brilliant clip there from Greengar's Thistle, and I love the way it allows you to see just some of the scenery. So while that clip was playing, I took a wee look for some information. The Tynecott Cemetery is the largest Commonwealth War Grave cemetery in the world. It is the home of the resting place, I suppose is the better word of it, of, where did I say that? 2 seconds ago. I've lost it. Right, give me the number. Give me the number. Give me the number. Where are you? I read the number 2 seconds ago. Absolutely. There are over 35,000
It's the resting place of more than 11,900 servicemen of the British Empire from the First World War. The area in the Western Front is the scene of the Third Battle of Ypres, known as the Battle of Passchendaele. It was one of the major battles in the First World War.
Yes, it's a beautiful, beautiful cemetery, and the Cross of Sacrifice is actually built on a German bunker because my great uncle fought at the Battle of Passchendaele, was actually gassed at the Passchendaele. We were lucky enough to be able to attend the 100th anniversary ceremony there a few years ago. Absolutely stunning and stunning place. It's a beautiful, beautiful cemetery. Definitely do make a point of visiting it if you can. Now, we are going to go back to, oh no, we're not. Yes, this is the clip I was talking about earlier on. So this is Brunswick Accordion Band, and they are parading down the sunken road in the same way that Shankill Road Defenders did in a few clips ago. But the reason that I've included this one as opposed to one of their other clips is that from this here, you can actually see, starts off showing you Thiepval in the background, and then you can see just exactly how close Thiepval is to the Ulster Tower and the road that you follow between the two, the sunken road. So this is Brunswick parading along what they call Mill Road, past Connaught Cemetery and past Mill Road Cemetery, on their way from Thiepval to the Ulster Tower. So as you saw there in the distance, you had Thiepval Tower. On the right, the woods surrounding Thiepval Memorial, is actually Thiepval Wood, and that extends along your right-hand side. The videographer was standing outside the Connaught Cemetery, and then directly opposite, as the camera swung round, you could see the lane up to Mill Road Cemetery, and it was on the hill. And then, of course, at the very end, you can see Ulster Tower, so you can see just exactly how close they were to it. And that slope in the ground is what they call the hill that they were attacking, and the Germans were at a vantage point at the top of that hill. And you can see what I mean about just being really, really flat ground. We're going to move back to the Cloth Hall now, where we're going to listen to Miller's Memorial playing Dad's Army. Brilliant from Miller Memorial. Now, just a couple more clips left, and the last thing that I have on for us this evening is an actual ceremony with the last post at Meningate, because I thought after seeing all these bands playing, you would want to be part of the service as well, and of course it's good to remember them. Now, another accordion band, I don't know how I managed to stick two so close together, bad planning there. This is Bailey's Mills accordion playing a beautiful hymn at the Ulster Tower. It's Near My God to Thee. Beautifully played there. Now, our next clip, what I wanted to do was give you a little bit of flavour of the parade that sometimes takes part on the 1st of July when there are various members of the Orange, when there are various bands, etc. there. So the first part of this is the parade arriving at the Ulster Tower, and this is from 2016. It's actually on the 2nd of July because the 1st of July had so many dignitaries there, it was all closed down. But this was the 2nd of July at Ulster Tower. In this clip, you see City of Belfast Fife and Drums, Pride of the Raven, Pride of the Grange, and then a few lamb eggs.
Right, we.
Gives you a little flavour of what it's like when there's several organisations at the Ulster Tower. And just to let you hear a little bit more of those lamb eggs, here's a clip of them playing on their own in 2008. I'm told that the lamb eggs belong to Listen Ski Drumming Club. again, something different. Now, going to play our last piece of music. Thank you all for joining us this evening as we remember the Somme and look at all the bands who have made the pilgrimage over. And that's not all of them. There are dozens upon dozens of more. But I mean, it's already 20 to 11 and I've kept you up late enough. But I hope you stay for our last piece. This is the actual last post at Meningate, followed by Dungiven Crown Defenders, and then the Reveille at the end of it. Just to give you a flavour of what it's like to actually experience the last post ceremony at Meningate. Thank you for being with us this evening. It's been a pleasure looking out all the program or the tunes for this one this evening. Don't forget to join us on Friday evening when our tunes are selected by James Johnson of Marching Band Videos. And then, of course, Saturday evening is our Scottish 12th Parade. So those are both back again at our usual time of 8 o'clock. But in the meantime, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you all on Friday night. And enjoy your virtual service at Meningate. Night, folks.
They shall not grow old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
It was when England's glorious sun in 1688 was overcast with treason's cloud and popery stood elate, that up arose her Protestants, the peasant and the peer, and vowed the chain of perjure James that they would not dainty wear. They sought them out a prudent chief to guide their heart and zeal, to lead them on that victory might bless their flashing steel. And who so fit to guide that host in all its bright array as William, Prince of Orange, ere he landed at Torbay? Then up arose the mighty chief and left his native shore, and rode upon the stormy waves our freedom to restore. Upon his flag was blazoned forth, high fluttering o'er the main, that our religion and our laws he ever would maintain. 'Twas then in gallant style he stood upon the vessel's prow, with victory on his flashing sword and wisdom on his brow. And tens of thousands greeted him upon his natal day, when he, our glorious Orange chief, first landed at Torbay. Come, brethren of the Orange bond, a bond ne'er to be riven. Whene'er we give great William's name, a bumper must be given. For if you'd fire a fou de joie to him who victory won, come prime and load and see you get charge into your gun. The eloquence of bumpers full there's nothing can surpass. There's not expresses kindred soul like friendship's social glass. And thus we give our song and toast with 3 times 3 huzzah, the memory of King William and his landing at Torbay. The memory of King William and his landing at Torbay.